Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Product Knowledge Training session on our World Book Day picks for 2025. Firstly, I'm going to start with our nursery picks. So this World Book Day, we've decided to do something slightly different. So rather than having a selection of books for £1 off, we have focused on the kind of real meaning behind World Book Day, and that is improving all children's access to books. So we have constructed 3 different bundles that will be available for you to purchase at a discounted rate for schools in February approximately. But I'm going to show you all the books now so you know what's coming. On the website, there'll be lots of resources and activities around these books. But these bundles have been designed to be a range of titles that we feel like every child should have access to in their school or nursery classrooms and libraries. So we've got 3 different bundles, one for nurseries, one for primaries, and one for secondaries. So I'm going to start with the nurseries bundle. So the first book in this bundle is this one, That's Not My Dog. So if you're not familiar with the That's Not My series, this is our best-selling series. They are sensory, touchy-feely books for young children to develop their sensory awareness. They're very repetitive, and each book has different character or animals and different touchy-feely patches. So this one is dog, so he's got a hairy tummy, he's got a shiny tag, he's got a rough nose, a fuzzy tongue, and fluffy paws. And it's a great way for children to do so many different activities around the senses and the different way things feel and look. And I think it's just a must-have for every nursery. And indeed, my son's nursery has absolutely loads of these books. So they're definitely super popular with nurseries as well. And if children like one of these books, that's great because there's a whole host of other books in the series. So that's this one. We've also got a book from the Phonics Reader series. So this one is Giraffe in the Bath. So children at nursery are starting to, particularly in the preschool class, look at recognising different letters and sounds, ready for moving on to school and learning to read. These are brilliant stories. There's a QR code on the back which links to a reading of the story. So great if English isn't a child's first language as well. They're highly illustrated, really funny stories. So great to enjoy as a class as well in nursery during story times, and great for those early reading skills like interpreting rhymes and rhythms and getting used to those different phonics sounds. Again, there are loads and loads of books in the Phonics Readers series, and whilst clearly these are going to be too challenging for nursery children to read on their own, it's a perfect way to develop those early skills, and also for parents to see books that they can have to develop those skills at home as well for their children. Next up in the nurseries pack is this one, which is 10 10-minute stories. I absolutely love these illustrated books. We've had quite a lot for my daughter and she adores them. We've never had this one and I'm really regretting it now I've had a good look through it, because I think it has some of the best loved stories. So in this book, in this collection, you've got Cinderella, the Golden Goose, the Wizard of Oz, The Wind in the Willows, The Snow Queen, The Magic Pear Tree, Sleeping Beauty, The Magic Porridge Pot, The Nutcracker, and Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So a child being read this collection of beautifully illustrated stories at nursery, I think will really broaden their reading horizons, and again, just show them all the beautiful classic tales that we are lucky enough to have, and also kind of sets up this foundation for future storytelling, because so many stories are based on these original classic tales. And I just think, yeah, really, really lovely to have in nursery classrooms. Gives them a lot of variety to read with their children as well. And I think, yeah, would be perfect in any classroom. And it's hardback, it's very, very hard wearing as well. So again, will be long lasting in an establishment that will be used frequently. There is also this one, which is one of my 3-year-old's favourite series. So this is Peep Inside a Helicopter from the Peep Inside series, of which there are lots of different vehicle related Peep Insides. My son has just turned 3 and he's absolutely obsessed with vehicles, how they work, and these books are an absolute dream for him. I like them as a parent because they also have a plot, so it's not just pure facts. It kind of tells the story of what the vehicle is doing, but then explains all the intricacies of how the vehicle works as you go along. So this is about a helicopter who's going to rescue people in the mountains. You've got lots of flaps to lift and look at to see what the helicopter's doing, why, and how it's working. So really, really interactive and engaging for children who are interested in the world around them and how it works. Again, just I think children just love flaps. There's something about it that automatically engages them more in what they're reading and enjoying. And then at the end, the helicopter's going off to a faraway island to give them letters, food, medicine, and some presents. It's a really nice end to the story. So you've got the rescue helicopter and then all the other things a helicopter does, like helping forest fires, helping faraway islands. And they're just I think it's a really, really fantastic series. And again, if a child likes this, there are so many others in the series that they can pick up and enjoy as well. And finally, in the nurseries pack, we have this one, which is all about you and your body. So this is part of the best-selling All About series, which is absolutely fantastic for nurseries and primary schools. And this is about all about you and your body. So you've got a contents page at the start, and you've got also at the back, you've got links to quick links. You've got a lot of information about body parts and body boundaries, which is so important to teach children from an early age. You've got a whole section on helping your child to maintain a healthy body image. So a really great section for grown-ups at the back. And you've got definitions of lots of different useful body words that you may have come across with your child in the books. It's great to be able to have a definition if your child asks you what something is. There's a whole section on your body being your own, which again is super, super important and something that is covered in the early years curriculum. Also goes through, where are we? So it goes through all the amazing things your body could do. It goes through how you grow up and change from being a baby. There's a brilliant section on your senses and what it means if some of your senses don't work properly and you have a disability in that way, how you communicate. Particularly great section about people being different and why they might be different and the reason behind that, how to keep yourself healthy, taking care of your body, your clothes, when you're poorly, what can you do, names for different parts of your body, and yes, and it concludes with this important information about you having the right to your own body and a say about what happens to your body. So yeah, really, really essential reading, I think, and an essential book to have in any setting. So that is the nursery pack, which obviously you can also sell to parents as well. It might be that they want to buy this collection of books for their nursery age child. Next up is the primary set. So we have got The Haunting of Aveline Jones. So kids seem to be absolutely fascinated by spooky books at the moment. Every single school event I go to, that's the number one genre children will tell me they like if you ask what they're into fiction-wise. So Aveline Jones is by the author Phil Hicks. There are 3 books in this series, and this is the first one. He also wrote Shadow Hall Academy. This is much more unisex, I think, as a book. So the main character is Aveline, and at the start of the book, she goes on holiday to stay with her aunt at a seaside town. It's a beautiful, like, atmospheric, spooky setting. And I think this is something that Phil Hicks does so well. It's that creation of atmosphere. This would be a brilliant book for schools to use to stimulate creative writing in their pupils. So she discovers a spooky old book that belonged to a girl called Primrose Pemberthy, and Primrose disappeared mysteriously and she was never seen again. So Aveline decides to investigate her disappearance with some help from her new friend Harold. But then something or someone starts to stir to life, and Aveline becomes entrapped in this kind of dangerous story. Spooky story. So it's amazing, like perfect gothic, spooky setting, classic kind of tropes of those spooky books with the old book belonging to someone and the disappearance, and the really great friendship between Aveline and Harold as well, who's also a really fabulous character. So highly, highly recommend any school having this in their library, because I think it's great for just getting all children engaged in reading. On the younger range of books, we have Billy and the Mini Monsters. So this is aimed at much younger readers than Aveline is. So Billy is a boy who has some mini monsters, and they help him navigate through lots of things that children might be worried about. So essentially it's a book about a young boy's fears and how, with the help of his mini monsters, he can overcome those, such as having a sleepover, going to school, being afraid of the dark, being afraid of learning to swim. That's not to say that his mini monsters aren't without flaws. They're very naughty and very cheeky, and they are always getting into trouble. But they're a way for him to navigate the world around him. And I think these books are great for opening up those conversations with children about their own fears and how the mini monsters might be able to help them overcome their fears. So the style of these books is it's quite a mixed format. So you've got the speech bubbles from the mini monsters. It's the first chapter book, so again, it's great from moving children onto picture books to chapter books. It's fully illustrated and full colour illustrations, which I think really helps. Like heavily illustrated throughout. So you've got Billy and all his mini monsters. This book, you've got the school bully, Basil Brown, who Billy is quite scared of. So the monsters decide to go to school with him to help him solve this situation. You've got like graphic kind of comic strip style sections in the books. And you know that his mini monsters going to school is just not going to be a good idea. He thinks they're safe at home, but they're not. They're in his bag, and they're about to cause absolute chaos throughout the school. So they're just really fun, really funny, highly illustrated books, but they have the added bonus that it does open up those conversations with children about what they might be worried about and how they can overcome those fears. Again, it's part of the series, so great for children to get into this one and then know that they're going to enjoy the other books in the series. Then we have Osborne Beginners Bugs. So this is a brilliant series. If English isn't a child's first language, I think it's really, really great because I don't think they're patronising in the slightest. So great for reading in an additional language, or if children are learning to read. You have a contents page at the front and at the back. You have a glossary of terms that you found in the book. You've got links to quick links, so Usborne's recommended websites for more information about this topic. And you've got an index at the back, which I think is fantastic. So it's getting kids to learn about things and learn to navigate through a book without relying on the internet. They are either illustrated or with photographs, depending on what the topic of the book is. So this uses a lot of photos of different types of bugs, but some illustrations as well. I do think it's a topic that kids are absolutely fascinated about, and a lot of children do forest school at primary schools. My daughter told me at school they spent most of the time looking for bugs. So I think it is a topic that children are fascinated about and that they're learning about at schools. And I think it's something that kids are often either fascinated or frightened by, and it just gives them all the information about bugs, how they work, what they do, their importance in our world. And just, yeah, absolutely packed full of information. But because it's broken down with photographs and illustrations, it doesn't seem overwhelming for children to read, and they can kind of dip in and dip out and learn about what they're interested in the world of bugs. And obviously with the illustrations and photos, they can kind of enjoy the book independently, even if they're not able to independently read all of it. Then we have 24 Hours in Space. This is one of my all-time favourite series that Usborne do. I think they're a really good value at £7.99, and they feel like they should be more expensive. And they are absolutely perfect, I think, for more reluctant readers. They're just a really great way to explore a place or a topic. So this one is set in space. So it introduces you to all the characters that are there. Again, you've got links to relevant quick links, you've got a contents page, and at the back you have got a glossary of terms that you might come across in this book and an index. And this essentially, yeah, tells the story of these characters, as this is in the book, having 24 hours in space. Again, like Billy, it has a mixture of different formats. So you've got the kind of speech bubble style, you've got pages that are more fact-filled. So it's kind of broken up, like the speeches and the lives of the characters is broken up with the facts about the topic, in this case, space. So like this whole section on space food and what they're eating. You've got their schedule of what they get up to, and then you've got this more comic strip style of the characters' lives in space. And again, kind of whole spreads like this. So this is looking around the spaceship and all the different parts of it. Here's more kind of comic strip style, speech bubble style information. And I just think these are such an engaging way for children to completely immerse themselves in a different world, fill their head with facts without really realizing they're doing it. And again, the way the text is broken down, it doesn't feel too daunting to read and engage with. So that is 24 Hours in Space. And finally, for the primary school bundle, you have this one, which is 100 Things to Know About Sport. So this, I'm saying this about most of the books, it's one of my all-time favourite Usborne series as well. So 100 Things to Know, there are now more than 10 books in this series, so more than 1,000 things to know. And this is aimed at the older age range in primary, and also great for secondary schools as well. So 100 Things to Know About Sport, I think, is one of the titles that we were definitely missing in this series, because I have found if a child's saying they don't really like reading or they're not that into it, and you ask them what they are interested in, 9 times out of 10, they're interested in sport. And this is the way to get them engaged in reading and falling in love with it again. So these books, again, do what they say on the tin. You have 100 different facts about a topic. So in this case, sport, and the editors try to find the most unusual facts they can about the topic, and they will share them with each other to check no one's heard of them before, just to see if they found the most interesting, fascinating facts about any topics. So you've got all the 100 facts, and then at the back of the book, you have this, which I absolutely love, which is Where on Earth. So it tells you where the different facts come from and which countries they come from, which I think is, well, it doesn't tell you every one of the 100 things, but it tells you quite a lot of them, which I think is just, yeah, really great for children to contextualize where the facts have come from and where in the world they have come from. And if they're interested in a particular country, they can look at this bit first and find out the sporting facts related to those countries. You've also got an index in this as well. And yeah, they're just really, really fun. They kind of remind me of Guinness World Recordy, that fun fact-filled book that children will want to get involved with, and they are going to be engaged with. Again, they can open it on absolutely any page. They can give each other numbers of the facts that they have to read. They're great for the teacher to share with the children in class, when a child could take a turn each day of the week or month, picking a different number until they've read all the facts in the book. And I just think, yeah, they're really, really fun, engaging way to learn about a topic. And we all know Usborne does the absolute best non-fiction books, and I think this series is definitely one of the best non-fiction series. So that is 100 things to know about sport. And then finally, in the secondary bundle, we have Business for Beginners. So this series I find is super, super popular with secondary school children and with children at the later stages of primary school. So this breaks down complex topics and kind of like breaks down all the elements of them. So children and adults, to be honest, can understand and connect with them. They were originally conceived, they looked up the most popular A-level topics, and those were the ones they chose to do first of all. Business was, if not the first one of the first ones. Politics might have been the first. So you have a contents page. So the topic, in this case business, is broken down into different logical sections that take you through. So this one goes through your basics of what is business, why do we need businesses everywhere, and why set up a business. Then you have chapter 1, how to start a business, chapter 2, how to sell your stuff, chapter 3, keeping track of money, chapter 4, people and business, 5, making a product, 6, growing the business, 7, the bigger picture, and then what now. I think as an adult, you'd learn so much from the book. And I think this is one of the topics I think kids now are much more into, finding an alternative way to live their lives. They're not so driven by the 9 to 5 as we were. And I think this book really kind of resonates with them about the world around them and how they could make money differently and how they could create their own money and their own opportunities, much like you guys are doing in your book selling business. They're highly illustrated with these amazing graphic style illustrations. And there's all the kind of like technical terms are explained and broken down so children can really understand like all the elements of a topic, and they contextualize everything as well with real life examples. And again, they're perfect for developing kids' knowledge. And I would say any child that is doing a GCSE or A-level in one of these topics, this is an absolute must-have for them, because I think it will give them everything they need to know in that subject. And then at the end, you have got... this great bit about if you want to start your own business, you could start with some of these activities, which again would be good for teachers to do in class with their students. You've got a glossary explaining all the terms that were found in the book. And you've got an index too, if there's something in particular that they want to find out more information about, they can quickly find it. You've also got some Usborne quick links to more things that people might be interested or engaged in. And again, I think this is an amazing book for people, for teenagers that don't see themselves as readers either. I think it's not that they're not readers, it's they don't like fiction, and that's the problem. It's not that they don't like reading. And I think this series, again, it doesn't patronize. It's a great series to get kids reading and learning about the things that interest and engage them. And I think business is definitely one of those topics. We have got another 100 things to know book, because again, this book is just as great for teenagers as it is for 9-year-olds. So the one we've chosen for the secondary bundle is 100 Things to Know About the Unknown. So again, exactly the same format as 100 Things to Know About Sport, where you have 100 different highly illustrated facts like this, and you have a glossary and an index at the back. Not all the books feature the map, actually, but this one does. And you've got the Where on Earth section as well about all these unknown facts. I think the cover is really cool. It would really appeal to that teenage audience. And again, it's just that great fun. And I feel should be a secondary school library staple for when children have English lessons and they go to the library, and hopefully they're enabled to have free choice to choose a book. And I think this is just something, again, that would get kids interesting. And again, it's your typical book for someone that has fallen out of love with reading to fall back in love with it. Because like I said with the other one, it's not they don't like reading, it's they prefer facts. And this is an amazing book to get them sharing those facts, competing with their friends to see how far through the book they've got, how many facts they've read so far. Again, a great one for kids to do in form time, and to learn a different fact every day. And yeah, just a really, really fun, engaging book that is perfect for older children. Now on to the fiction for the secondary school bundle. So first up is You Could Be So Pretty, which is aimed at older teenagers. So this is 14 plus. It's a Holly Bourne book. So it's a dystopian book about a world where you are either a pretty or you are an objectionable. And if you are a pretty, you have to look a certain way that society tells you to look. You have to act a certain way that society tells you to look. If you are an objectionable, you go against all of that, but you're essentially rejected from society and you struggle to kind of form relationships and get jobs that society deems are appropriate for you. So the two main characters, Belle and Joni. Belle is pretty, Joni's an objectionable, but something happens to Belle and it starts to get her questioning the world she lives in. Is it right that men hold so much power over women? Is it right that it only seems to be women who are forced to be obsessed with their appearance and kind of look after it to the nth degree, and that men have so much control over the way they treat them and women can't say anything and they're supposed to enjoy those connections with men? And Joni starts to make Belle question this world and starts to help her to see that life doesn't need to be like this and the way they're living isn't right and it isn't fair to women. And as you go through the book, you realize that it is a stark reflection of the world we live in, albeit kind of framed in a dystopian way, but it's entirely reflective in the society we live in. There's a good kind of real strand about social media and the need to post every element of your life and the need to adapt your appearance on social media using filters to appear a certain way, and this desperate need for likes in order to feel value. And yeah, it's just a really, really clever interpretation of our world that really gets people questioning how they live, whether it's right, and whether they should be living in that way. It's quite different for Holly Bourne, I think, because it has this more dystopian feel to it, whereas her other books are very much set in the world we live in and kind of obviously set in the world we live in. But I think it's an absolutely phenomenal book that every teen should read and question, and again, would be great for forms to read together and discuss and debate. Then we have this one, which is Tick, which is, I think, our best-selling fiction book of all time. This is perfect for younger readers, so the bottom end of secondary, but also I think older readers would really enjoy it as well. It's about a boy called Buddy, and he dreams of being a football player. But instead of being a football player, he lives in the slums of Jakarta and he's forced to make a living by sewing the football boots that he wishes he was wearing. Unluckily, he gets caught up with the most dangerous man in Jakarta, the dragon, and his life is suddenly in danger. And it's this book that kind of fully immerses children into his world, into the poverty that he's living in, into the sweatshop trade, into this idea of rich and poor, and how where you were born and the family you're born into has so much influence over the things that are open and available to you and possible for you. But it's also a real book about hope. And again, because you have that football hook, I think, again, it is great for kids, getting kids engaged and involved in reading. This is also available as a class set as well. So this bundle is a good way of kind of getting schools into this book that you can then share as a class set. And I think it'd be phenomenal to discuss, talk about, debate in class. And finally, we have This Book Kills, which I think has been our fastest selling YA book that we've had out, by Ravina Guron. So this was her debut novel for us. She has since also released Catch Your Death, and Mondays Are Murder is coming early next year. She writes murder mystery thrillers, and she's hugely inspired by Agatha Christie. This book is 12 plus, and I think appeals equally to boys and girls. So this centers around Jess, and she writes a piece of creative writing, and the plot of her creative writing comes true. I'll read you the blog notes to explain it better. So it says, when Hugh Henry Van Boren, one of the most popular and richest kids in Jess Chowdhury's school, is found dead, the student body is left wondering who the murderer could be. Jess, a student under strict instructions to keep her record clean or risk losing her scholarship, finds herself at the centre of the investigation when it's revealed that Hugh died in the exact same way as a character in a short story she wrote. And then Jess receives an anonymous text thanking her for the inspiration. With time running out, Jess knows if she doesn't solve this mystery, she'll finally have something in common with Hugh. She'll be dead too. It is a real page turner that keeps you guessing right to the end. It has an amazing twist. I had no idea who did it, and it was a real shock to me, to be honest, who did do it. There's amazing characters, amazing relationships between the characters, full of twists and turns and clues. It's set in quite an elite boarding school, and there's a great exploration of like prejudice and power and the power that money gives you. And you're fully immersed in Jess's world, trying to work out, as Jess does, the clues and unpick them to find out who did it. And yeah, just an absolutely phenomenal page-turning book that, again, I think is an absolute must-have for any secondary school library and an absolute must-have for any teen reader. And I think really plays into this horror thriller trend that kids just seem to be absolutely all about at the moment. So I hope you found this a useful session and that you love these book choices as much as we do. So these offers will not be available until 2025, but we wanted you to know the books first so you could familiarise yourselves with them and start thinking about you're making your own recommendations to different settings about why they need these books in their settings for their pupils. Thank you for joining me.